Mr. Harris, I believe I've put a transcript binder up on the witness stand near you. Do you see it? No. No? Okay. I apologize. Let me get one. Oh. Your Honor, I would ask the court and jury to turn to grand jury transcripts 526, 527, 528. I've consulted with defense counsel and I believe there is no objection. I think you said grand jury transcripts. I said grand jury. I apologize, Your Honor. Government exhibits 526, 527, 528, and we would move them into evidence. Any objection? No, Judge. 526 through 528 are admitted without objection. Mr. Harris, do you have that transcript binder in front of you? Yes. So if you would, take a moment and look at each one of those transcripts briefly, 526, 527, and 528, and then look at me when you're done. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris, have you seen previously government exhibits 526, 527, and 528? Yes. You've reviewed those transcripts? Yes. And have you listened to the calls that accompany those transcripts as well? Yes. And did you listen to them, in fact, just this past weekend? Yes, sir. With myself? Yes. And did you have the opportunity to review the transcripts and compare them to the audio of the call? Yes, sir. And based on your review of that, are the transcripts a fair account of what is said on those calls? Yes, sir. And are the speakers accurate to the best of your ability? Yes. So, Mr. Harris, I want to start with Government Exhibit 526. If you would, across the top of the page, line 1, it says date. What is the date related to this transcript and call? 11/18/2002, which is on November 18, 2012. November 18th, 2012? Yes, sir. And what's the time of the call? 12:35 a.m. So it's very early in the morning? Yes, sir. And based on your prior review of these calls and transcripts, do these calls and transcripts relate to the evening that you and I have been discussing when you threw guns out the window with Cello and were with Mr. Span and Main? Yes, sir. Mr. Harris, I am going to play the call in its entirety. It's quite short, and then I'm going to ask you some questions about it. Okay. Mr. Harris, did you hear Government Exhibit 526? Yes, sir. And did you recognize the two people speaking? Yes, sir. And who were the two people speaking on this telephone call? One was me and the other one was Main. Main, Mr. Turnipseed? Yes. And at the beginning of the call, you say hello, and Main says, "You all got them?" Yes, sir. What do you understand Main to be referring to when he says, "You all got them"? The two guns that we tossed out the window? And in response, Mr. Harris, you say, "We're going to get them now." What are you referring to? The guns we tossed out the window. And then you say, "They ass is still chasing us"? Yes. What are you referring to when you said that, Mr. Harris? The police who had stopped us the first time. So you're saying that the police are still out there? Yes. And then at line 26, Mr. Harris, Mr. Turnipseed says, "They got us right here, man." What do you understand him to be saying there? That one of the Crown Victorias or the police had pulled them over? And at line 31 and 32, Man says, I hopped out of the car. They got B in the car. Yes, sir. What do you understand Mr. Turnipseed to be referring to when he says they got B in the car? Maybe that he hopped out the car and he left B inside the car. And who is B? Brother Man. So your understanding is that Mr. Turnipseed got out of the car and Mr. Span was still in the car? Yes, sir. And then Mr. Turnipseed says, y'all need to go grab them, Yes, sir. What do you understand Mr. Turnipseed to be referring to? The 2 guns that we tossed out the window. And then you indicate we're going to go get them. Yes. Mr. Harris, if you would, flip to Government Exhibit 527. And on the top of that page, what is the date related to this call-in transcript, Mr. Harris? 11/18/2012. So the same date as the prior call? Yes, sir. And what time is related to this call-in transcript, Mr. Harris? 12:53 a.m. Is that just less than a half hour after the first call we just listened to? Yes, sir. This call is also short, Mr. Harris. I'm going to play it in its entirety and then ask you some questions. Mr. Harris, do you recognize the 2 speakers in Government Exhibit 527? Yes, sir. Who are the speakers? One of them was me and the other one was Main. Mr. Turnipseed? Yes, sir. And does this appear to relate to this evening we were talking about where you threw guns out the window? Yes, sir. And you were with Mr. Span and Main? Yes. So, Mr. Harris, on page 1, line 16, you say to Mr. Turnipseed, these people just got caught up looking for the banger boy. Yes, sir. What did you mean by that? That while we was looking for the other gun, they had caught us while we was looking for it. That going back to the time when I was telling you they caught us looking for it, and I told them that Cello wasn't with me and I was going to my girlfriend's house. So this is you're referring to when the Crown Vic came up on Keeler and stopped you when you were looking for the gun? Yes, sir. And when you say these people, who are you referring to? The police. And when you say banger, what are you referring to? The gun. Is that a slang word used for gun? Yes, sir. And then you said at line 19 and 20, on my kids, they just grabbed up and threw us on the car, man. Yes, sir. Who's they in that sentence? The police. And you're referring to when the police stopped you and searched you? Yes, sir. And then on line 26, you again refer and use the word banger. Again, are you referring to a firearm? Yes, sir. Mr. Harris, later in the conversation at line 36, you say to Mr. Turnipseed, that secure. Yes, sir. What do you mean by that? That one of the guns we had already found and it was already put up. Is this the gun that Cello had found? Yes, sir. And so you were still looking for the gun that I tossed? Yes, sir. And you testified you eventually found that gun, correct? Yes, sir. And where did you find it? Right in the middle of the street. Now, Mr. Harris, you testified that after you found the gun, you dropped off Cello, correct? Yes, sir. And you went where? I went home. And you did not see Mr. Span or Main again that night? No, sir. And the next morning, did you have a conversation with Mr. Span? Yes, sir. About the events from the prior night? Yes. And do you recall where you were when you had the conversation? I was driving on the expressway on the way from my house. Were you alone in your car? Yes, sir. And we'll listen to the call in a moment. But in summary, what did Mr. Span say to you, and what did you say to him? He called my cell phone. He asked me where I was at, and I told him I was on my way from the house. And he was basically telling me how that same night or the night before that, how Pig Vez got shot at Greektown. He was asking me, did I hear about it? So to be clear, you had a conversation with Mr. Span the day after the events we've been talking about? Yes, sir. And Mr. Span asked you if you heard about Pig and who else getting shot? My friend, one of my friends, Travis. Travis? Yes, sir. What's Travis's full name, if you know it? If I'm not mistaken, it's Travis Thompson. Your Honor, if I could have the ELMO to publish an exhibit that Defense Counsel has no objection to, Government Exhibit 152. All right, Government Exhibit 152 is admitted without objection. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Harris, I've put up on the screen what's marked as Government Exhibit 152. Do you recognize that person? Yes, sir. Who is that? That's my friend Travis. Travis have a nickname? Just Vez. And did you associate Vez with a gang? Yes, sir. Which gang? GD, Gangster Disciples. So he was a GD like you? Yes, sir. Mr. Harris, at this time in 2012, would you say that you held rank in the GDs? Yes, sir. Would you say that Vez was above you or beneath you in the hierarchy of the GDs? Beneath. So Vez was one of your guys? Yes, sir. And you said in this conversation with Mr. Span, he advised you that Pig and Vez were shot the night before? Yes. And this is the night. You have some water if you want. Mr. Harris, go ahead, take a sip. Mr. Harris, this is the night, the day after, that you, Cello, Man, and Broman had been looking for Pig? Yes, sir. Now, did you also, after this call, go to your hangout at the Three Stooges? That morning? Yes, sir. Yes. Sometime that day. Yes. And there, did you learn about what had happened the night before to Pig? Yes, sir. And again, did you learn that Pig and Vez had been shot? Yes. Did they survive as far as you knew? Yes. And where did this shooting occur? I was told at Greektown. To be clear, Mr. Harris, you were not present for the shooting in Greektown? No, sir. And you said Mr. Span called you and you talked about this shooting? Yes. So I'll ask you to flip to Government Exhibit 528. Before I play the call, Mr. Harris, What is the date on line 1 of Government Exhibit 528? 11/18/2012. So it's the same day as the other calls? Yes, sir. Were the other calls early in the morning after midnight? Yes, sir. And what's the time of this call? 11:06 a.m. And who are the speakers indicated on lines 5 and 6? One of them is Brother Man. The other one is me. Mr. Harris, I'm going to play Government Exhibit 528 and stop and ask some questions along the way. So, Mr. Harris, I've stopped the recording just 23 seconds into it. Line 21, you say that you're out on the E-way? Yes, sir. What are you referring to? I had just came outside from my house and I was on E-way headed to Chicago, to the city. So is that like you said you were on the expressway? Yes, sir. And in response to that, Mr. Span pretty quickly says, "Man, I had to check Vez, goofy ass." Yes, sir. What did you understand Mr. Span to mean when he said I had to check Vez? He had to curse him out. Why do you understand Mr. Span had to curse out Vez? He told me that he had to curse him out because he was with Pig when he got shot or something like that. Does that come out later in the call? Yes, sir. Okay, I'm going to restart the call at 23 seconds. Okay, Mr. Harris, I've stopped the call at 56 seconds. And in the call, Mr. Span brings up a person he first calls high top and then calls flat top? Yes, sir. Who do you understand to be high top or flat top? Flat top was one of my friends, one of my member of the gangster disciples up under me. Up under you? Yes, sir. So he was one of your guys? Yes, sir. And his nickname Flat Top, not High Top? Flat Top, yes, sir. I'm going to restart the call at 56 seconds. Okay, Mr. Harris, I've stopped the recording again at 1 minute and 10 seconds into the recording. At line 24, Mr. Span says, "He called my homie." Who do you understand Mr. Span to be referring to when he says he? Flat Top. And do you have an understanding of who Mr. Span's homie is? From my understanding, it's probably one of his friends or someone who's up under him. What do you mean up under him? Like another member of the Four Cour Hustlers. And up under who? Up under Brother Man. And Mr. Span says that Flat Top called someone up under him and said you shot Vez. Is that correct? Yes, sir. So was Flat Top accusing one of Mr. Span's people of shooting Vez? Yes, sir. And then Mr. Span says that his homie says I had nothing to do with it at lines 25 and 26. Is that right? Yes, sir.